Hey there, welcome to Tim Talks Cooking. I'm Tim, and today I'm going to show you a very easy way to make some delicious basil pesto. Let's get started. Of course, to make the best pesto, you need really great ingredients, and I've got some really good ones here. Starts off with fresh basil leaves. These are from my garden. I have a whole kilo, that's 2.2 pounds of basil leaves here. You want to, of course, pull them off of the stems and the branches. We don't want the branches, the stems, any flowers or anything. And then wash them thoroughly and dry them before you use them for this recipe. You're also going to need some fresh garlic. Here for this quantity, for me personally, I'm going to use 10 cloves of garlic. You can do this to taste if you like. I've also got pine nuts here. This is 1 cup that I'm going to use for this quantity of basil. I also have this beautiful Italian cheese. This is Parmigiano Reggiano. It's kind of expensive, but it's really the perfect thing for pesto, and so I think it's worth it. It's really very delicious. Get the best Parmesan cheese you can for this recipe. You're also going to need, of course, some salt. This is kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper, and some citric acid. We're going to add this citric acid powder to our recipe so that we can keep the bright green color as best we can. Before we get started making the sauce, let's roast the pine nuts first. And if you don't have pine nuts, of course, you could use walnuts or pecans or any nut you like. Here I'm going to shake in about half of the pine nuts. We want them to be in one layer in the bottom of this pan. There, as I think you can see, we have it. They're browned on one side slightly. And now I'm just going to remove these to a ceramic bowl. Since I've got so much basil, I'm going to make this in at least 2 batches here. I'm going to start off by putting half of the garlic cloves in the food processor. So that would be 5 of them. And we're going to attach the lid. And unless you want to chop these by hand, which I don't, I'm going to put the lid on and just let the food processor chop them up. Scrape down the sides. And onto the basil. Now we can put handfuls of the basil in there. I'm going to start off by really filling it up. And next, to help it puree, I'm going to pour in some olive oil. Here, probably about a half a cup, 3/4 of a cup. Add more leaves as they get pureed. Here I'm going to again add about half of these. You can, depending on your food processor, add oil while it purees, and that will speed the process up and help you achieve a smooth consistency. Add more basil leaves. At this point, it's a good idea to add some of the citric acid powder. Here I'm going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of that. And I'm also going to add some salt. Not too much because the cheese is salty. Some freshly ground black pepper. Do this to taste. I like a certain amount of pepper. Of course, we're going to need more olive oil. I'm just going to go ahead and add that in. And we're going to continue to puree it. As your basil purees, add more oil to smooth out the consistency. And of course, stop once in a while to scrape down the bowl. Notice the consistency of my pesto. It's a nice paste. In fact, the word pesto means paste. in Italian, and that's really kind of what we're looking for. Here, I'm going to add just a little bit more basil, another nice handful. And incorporate that. Stop once again, scrape down the sides. You see you've got a really nice, beautiful green paste going on in there. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now, it's time to add some cheese. How much cheese? Well, let's see. I'm going to start off with about a cup. I'm just going to slog that right on in there, just like that. And mix it in. And I'm thinking it needs more just by looking at it. I can tell I want more cheese. I'm going to add another cup or so of cheese. I'm just going to dump it in there. I like a lot of cheese in my pesto, so I'm putting a lot of cheese in there. You can see this is going to... Now at this point, to me, this is starting to look like exactly the pesto that I want. Let's see if it is. I'm going to give it a taste. And this is really important to taste while you cook. Oh yeah, that's very nice. I think that's enough cheese. Now let's add in the pine nuts. Now, when you do this, of course we're only going to use half of them. This is half of our sauce. When you do this, you don't want to puree the pine nuts. Or at least I don't. I want them to remain in chunks. And so I'm going to just pulse this briefly. And then I'm going to leave well enough alone. And what we end up with is this lovely, perfect pesto. I think the best way to preserve pesto is to put it in ice cube trays, like this one. Cheese, pine nuts and all. Cover each ice cube tray with plastic wrap. And then off to the freezer. Now the next day, you've got a frozen tray of pesto cubes, and it's a wonderful thing, but you've got to be wondering, what do I do with these? To store them, one thing you could do is just simply leave them in the ice cube tray covered with plastic. I think I'd do a little bit better job than this of that. This will last for a couple of months in the freezer. Hopefully will not get freezer burned before you can use it all up. You could also remove them from the ice cube tray and put them in a resealable plastic bag like this one. These are really great. They hold a lot of pesto cubes, but I would get all of the air I can out of it before I put it in the freezer. Air is really the problem with pesto. So what I do is I use a vacuum sealer, and here I've got a plastic bag that's for that purpose, made by the Food Saver people. And I'm going to make a little cuff on it because we don't want to get that dirty with pesto. We don't want to have that all oily. Here I'm going to put the pesto cubes in there. By the way, 2 cubes is 1 generous serving. I'm going to put a couple of servings in here. I think I get about 3 servings. That's 6 cubes of pesto. And I'm going to arrange them in there so they'll stay nice on the shelf in the freezer in one layer. Kind of like that. And get all of that off of there. And open up the sealer here. Get my bag ready. And here we go. Put that edge right on in there and close the top. And here we go. And in just no time at all of the air has been sucked out of that bag. And there we have it. Wow, look at all this pesto we just made, and it is just gorgeous. Boy, are we going to eat well this winter. This is enough for 34 really generous portions of pesto. Or actually I should say 35 because I just put one in the microwave to warm up. You know, I like to taste my dishes at the end of my videos anyway, and this is no exception. I'm actually pretty excited about this. I really love fresh pesto, and this is, I'm sure, going to be pretty acceptable. Let's find out. So good. You know, when you use the right ingredients, when you use really beautiful fresh basil, really great cheese like the Parmigiano reggiano that we put in here, and great olive oil. You just can't miss. I hope you try this recipe. I also hope that you will like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Helps my channel grow and helps you find my videos, especially if you click on that notifications bell. Thanks for joining us here today at Tim Talks Cooking. We'll catch you next time.